Right now,
Today
50.
we'll tackle tough times in
The
California.
economic troubles facing San Diego will be the focus of Mayor Jerry Sanders' annual State of the City
reports
address.
a 60% hike in rapes where either one or both people.
Process. UCLA researchers tracked the progress of 50 sarcoma patients using
From the KPBS studios, this is San Diego Week.
Good evening, I'm Peggy Pico. Thanks for joining us. Tonight on San Diego Week, we'll speak to City Councilman Kevin Faulconer about his proposal to overhaul city pensions. He says it'll save the city more than $1 billion. And we'll find out why San Diego's affordable housing program is in jeopardy. Plus, the heated debate over the funding of rarely used roadside emergency call boxes. And you'll get a preview of the unusual tribute to a San Diego man who changed how Americans shops. That's all coming up on San Diego Week. But first, the headlines. Amitha Sharma joins us from the KPBS News Center. Amitha, what connection did Education Secretary Arne Duncan draw between education and national security on his visit to San Diego last week?
Peggy, Secretary Duncan made some dire pronouncements about American schools during a visit to North County this week. He said 3 of 4 young adults who want to join the military are not qualified to serve. Duncan says the No Child Left Behind Act needs reform and called for a greater emphasis on early education.
It is far too punitive. There are many, many ways to fail, and the only reward for success is you're not labeled a failure.
Senator Dianne Feinstein says she now endorses a national repository for nuclear waste. The crisis at a Japanese nuclear plant has renewed debate about a plan for a repository in Nevada. The pools holding spent fuel at U.S. nuclear plants may be at greater risk than those in Japan, according to experts. Feinstein's comments came following a talk at the Lawyers Club of San Diego.
I think the country would be better off, and I've changed my mind on this, with regional fuel repositories where the standards are set, where the maintenance is secure, where technical people are observing.
Meanwhile, 6 of the federal government's 12 radiation sensors in California are not fully working. The detectors are not able to give real-time warnings in case of a nuclear emergency. There are delays of 30 minutes to several hours. 3 of the detectors with glitches are close to the Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant. The delays aren't a problem in the Japan nuclear crisis because the trace amounts of radiation to reach California do not pose a health risk. And in the end, not even the red and black draped SDSU fans could help the Aztecs last night. The University of Connecticut Huskies beat San Diego State in a 74-67 win, dashing the Aztecs' hopes to move to the Elite Eight. Peggy?
San Diego voters could be the ones to decide the retirement benefits new city workers should receive. A proposal announced this week by city leaders would eliminate pensions and instead have new employees rely on Social Security and 401k plans. The change would not apply to police, firefighters, and lifeguards. This is the latest effort to halt the city's mounting pension cost. Joining me to explain the details of the proposal is San Diego City Councilman Kevin Faulconer. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, a lot of questions regarding this. Now, the mayor has said that public workers should not get better benefits than the people they serve. How do you justify the changes in these benefits?
These are changes that are long overdue, particularly for the city of San Diego. And the mayor and I unveiled a very substantive, comprehensive pension reform plan yesterday, the hallmark of which is moving to a 401k style plan for new city hires. I think that's the right thing to do because we're going to save a tremendous amount of money from day one. And we have to make this change to get our pension costs under control, because if we do nothing, those costs are going to continue to escalate and we'll have less money for the very important things we need in neighborhood services, such as road repair, police and fire services, rec centers, libraries. This is a comprehensive plan. It's a tough plan. Make no mistake about it, but it's going to save San Diego taxpayers millions and millions of dollars every single year.
Well, speaking of kind of the public services, you were saying police, fire, and lifeguards are excluded from this plan. So a lot of of people would ask, how is that fair?
Well, certainly when you're talking about public safety, which is the most important thing in terms of a city, you want to make sure that you have the best men and women that are able to provide that services. And those people that put their lives on the line should have a different benefit plan. But public safety should not be exempted from the reforms. And that's one of the reasons why in our plan, we put in one of the strongest caps in public safety of any city in the state of California. And we also end the past practice of pension spiking, which people could retire with their highest one-year salary. And we've said, no, that's now going to be an average of 3 consecutive years. So it's tough all the way around. And certainly there's some folks that aren't going to like it. But we're committed to moving this forward because it's right for taxpayers and it's right for both the short-term and long-term city of San Diego.
Speaking of both terms, short and long term, how exactly, and you touched on it a little bit, is this plan going to save the city money?
Well, we're going to save money from day one. And in fact, in the first 5 years of the plan, we're going to save approximately $140 million off our pension costs. And as I said, that's money that we desperately need for vital city services. And over 29 years, this plan, according to the actuary that ran the numbers on this plan, it'll save the city of San Diego $1.5 billion with a B, dollars. We have to do this. The city of San Diego made so many bad decisions in the past, underfunding the pension, deliberately granting increased benefits. This brings it under control. It's a plan that works with every other business basically in the United States in the private sector. It should be good enough for city employees.
And let me ask you this exactly and precisely. How is it cheaper to pay in both Social Security and employees' 401k plans rather than to pay in a pension plan?
One of the biggest factors is you were going to take out the risk factor. And so now, for example, when you see some of these huge investment loss that has been suffered, it's the taxpayers that pick up that difference. That risk will now be shifted to the employees participating in the plan, just like it happens with every other employee that's in a 401k plan. That is what we need to do for San Diego in terms of ensuring that we have level payments, that we know what those payments are going to be. And it's one of the hallmarks of saving the millions of dollars that we're going to be able to do.
And in this savings, last questions, we don't have a whole lot of time.
Yeah.
How will this affect the city, the city budget, the city deficit?
Well, as I said before, from day one, we're going to start saving money. In the first 5 years, it's about $140 million. And that's so critically important as we're looking to make decisions now in terms of rec center funding, library hours, and my pet peeve as a councilman, more money for street repair to get rid of those potholes. The more money we have for our city services and the less money we have to pay for pensions, everyone's going to benefit. I'm really confident, and I believe that this will qualify for the ballot, and that when it gets on the June 2012 ballot, we're going to receive overwhelming support for San Diegans who want to make this fundamental change.
Okay, thank you very much, Kevin. Appreciate it. San Diego is an expensive place to live, which makes affordable housing especially valuable here. But housing officials worry they may lose one of their biggest sources of funding if the governor's plan to eliminate redevelopment agencies moves forward. KPBS Metro reporter Katie Orr takes a closer look at who benefits from affordable housing in San Diego.
Trina Ibarra has had the keys to her downtown San Diego apartment for about a year now.
This is my lovely living room.
Ibarra's apartment has 3 bedrooms, an upgraded kitchen, and spectacular views of the downtown skyline. But more importantly, it provides a quality living space for her family. That's something she hasn't always had.
I'm a single parent of 2 children, so I was actually living in a very, very small junior 1-bedroom, so it was kind of tight for all 3 of us, but that's all I could afford at the time.
About 2.5 years ago, Ibarra was looking at an affordable housing website and found out about the Parkside apartments, which were about to be built. She applied, and a year later got the news that she'd been accepted and could rent an apartment in the complex.
Oh, my son can have his own little privacy now, him being a teenager, and my daughter and her toys are actually in her room, in her own space. So it's definitely made a huge difference for me and both my kids.
Ibarra makes about $14 an hour. She pays $928 a month in rent, which allows her to support her family. To qualify for a space in this affordable housing complex, you have to make between 50% and 60% of the area's median income. That means a single person can make between about $27,000 and $33,000 a year to qualify. A family of 7 can make about $58,000 to qualify, the maximum income allowed at Parkside. Ibarra says she feels lucky to have gotten her apartment, and she may be.
Affordable housing officials say there's a substantial demand for more units in the region, but building them takes time and money.
A significant portion of that money has been coming from the City of San Diego's redevelopment agency, which must put aside 20% of the money it takes in for affordable housing. Those funds are used to turn vacant, blighted lots like this one in Barrio Logan into housing developments like the coming Mercado project.
This particular development has been contemplated for about 2 decades.
Susan Tinsky is the executive director of the San Diego Housing Federation. She says the development will include 92 apartments and the neighborhood's first grocery store. She says it's meant to be a community center.
These folks that will be residing in these units are our workforce. I mean, we're in a community that is just as adjacent to downtown San Diego. These are the folks that are working in the service sectors and the hospitality sector.
To qualify for a spot in the Mercado, a family of 4 must earn less than $27,000 a year. Tinsky says there likely won't be a shortage of people who want to live in the complex. She says the region needs a total of 100,000 more housing units, which puts a greater stress on affordable housing.
Generally, right now, there are wait lists at each development that occurs, and there's also waiting lists for Section 8 and other public programs.
Tinsky says redevelopment has been the second largest funder of local affordable housing behind the federal government. Without it, she says many projects may not get done. That means thousands of people may not be able to experience the joy Trina Ibarra felt moving her kids into their new home.
It's such a good feeling because as a single parent, now my children have their own space, and I feel like I'm feeling like I accomplished something as a mother to give that to my children.
KPBS Katie Orr reporting. The fate of redevelopment agencies is still up in the air, but the bill to eliminate them says the state would find another way to fund affordable housing. Still, that could be difficult since California has a nearly $27 billion deficit. $1 from your state vehicle registration fee is used to fund what some call an obsolete service. That is freeway emergency call boxes. And now the agency that oversees the service has come under fire for its use of taxpayer money. Supporters of the SD Safe program say the call boxes helped save lives. San Diego City Beat writer Dave Moss broke the story. He's here with us now with details about this controversy. Dave, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Good. We're happy to have you here. Now, you looked into the agency that oversees these call boxes, and what did you find out?
Well, it's not the call boxes that's the problem. It's the call boxes only cost a portion of what they collect each year. I would say it's about $840,000, but they collect $2.5 million a year. And so every year they're spending quite a bit more on other projects and also banking a lot in their reserves. I think they have somewhere between $10 and $12 million in reserves right now, which is a lot in this economy.
But when you're talking about the money they're collecting, it's not just for the call boxes, it's for something called motorist aid?
Well, the legislation was created in 1986, which allowed them to, specifically said, create call boxes with this, save people when they're stuck by the side of the road. And there was a little clause that said you could spend, a little bit of the extra money on motorist aid services, and they imagined this would be signs on the road, lighting for the call boxes. But they started spending this on enormous things, helicopters, what they called flying fire engines, and, a $4 million motorist radio project. It's quite complicated. And then, big marketing campaigns.
And then so there's also a cost that they use for maintenance as well.
Well, I mean, when I say the $840,000, it is to maintain the call boxes that they have.
Okay. Okay. So money. Yeah, money's being spent all over the place. And who gives them, or what gives them the authority to spend this money in this way?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, 25 years ago it said do this, and they sort of took it upon themselves. And it's mostly, County Supervisor Ron Roberts and Carlsbad City Councilor Ann Colchin have been on this board for 2 decades now. And they've achieved this sort of seniority as other councilors come in and then leave very quickly because of term limits and because it's not a very glamorous board, allowing these two to sort of take control of, how this money is spent. Some people have said that this, budget, amounts to a slush fund for them.
And how are the taxpayer advocates, how are they responding to the way this agency is spending tax dollars?
Well, so far they didn't really know about this until recently. I mean, this has been a committee that nobody shows up to the meetings. It's not really a popular committee, but people have been reacting fairly strongly to it because, this is, tough times. $1 does matter.
$1 when combined like this, it certainly matters. What is the city council, what is their take on this?
Well, two city council members, the two newest city council members, Lori Zapf and David Alvarez, sit on this committee, and they immediately started identifying what they considered wasteful spending. They had a lot of questions, and they felt like they weren't getting heard. They felt like all the decisions were made in advance before, they came in. And now they're pushing back, and they're saying, listen, we need to have a very hard discussion about whether this agency should even exist anymore.
Yeah, and I was going to say, where does it go from here? What is the ultimate goal from here for the tax advocates, for the people that are saying that on the city council, look, nobody uses these anymore?
Well, I would say they're still useful, but based on what they have in reserves, they could run this for more than 8 years off their reserves. They could suspend the fee, run it for 8 years. That's pretty incredible, I think. So maybe they should need to start talking about suspending this tax, or maybe they need to see what else this can be spent on, but have greater decision-making, in the process, as opposed to just two, long-time politicians.
Do you think people are still using them? I never see anyone use them.
Well, when you're on the road, your phone is being drained more quickly because it's searching for signals. And so I think a lot of people do tend to, run out of juice on the road. And that's what it's there for, is for those, hard emergencies. Even if it's only 10 people saved, I think it's still kind of important. I think they can call back a little. I wouldn't say eliminate it altogether. But, you don't actually need all this, money to, set aside for it.
The reserves is what you're talking about. And then I understand there's some public meetings where people can come up and talk about this. When are those?
There's one in mid-April. I believe it's April 14th. I don't have the address offhand. And then there's going to be another one in May. So the one in mid-April is going to be for the Budget Committee, which is a 3-member board, which is Ron Roberts and Ann Colchin, and then another member. And then the larger Budget Committee, which may see a lot of fire in May. Yeah, so.
All right. Dave Moss, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you being here. In Syria, as in many countries in the Middle East, people are taking to the streets demanding more freedom. But Syrians have also been marching in the streets for another cause: breast cancer. I recently spoke to a Syrian doctor who was so moved by San Diego's race for the cure that she made it her mission to help women in her own country and ultimately change public opinion about cancer. Balloons, banners, and thousands of pink-clad walkers are familiar sights at the 3-day breast cancer walk in San Diego. Most have heard of the Susan B. Komen Race for the Cure, but Dr. May Al-Mahani had never seen anything like it.
Was a very great walk. I remember perfect that the walk, very emotional.
The women, you said, the women were wearing T-shirts and the survivors, and it touched you.
Yes, touched me very, very much. And the other women who lost their relatives in the breast cancer. All of this walk was eager to me, motivate me to do work in my country.
The energy is building all around us. Can you feel it?
Inspired by the 2007 San Diego walk, Al-Mahani organized the first ever breast cancer walk in her native Syria. Thousands of men and women participated in the March for Survival breast cancer walk in Damascus, including the government's top health official.
We invited the Secretary of Health, and he came.
The support from Syria's Secretary of Health was vital to break through a cultural taboo. Is it a taboo to talk about breast cancer in Syria?
Not breast cancer, all of the cancer, it was taboo.
Deeply ingrained traditions of modesty had to be tackled as well.
Our culture, it's prevent women to go to a doctor and the doctor examine her breasts.
Not anymore, says the Breast Cancer Syrian Society, sponsor of the March for Survival walk in Damascus. Their data shows the number of breast exams and mammograms in Syria have significantly increased since the 2008 walk.
On the Mother's Day, every year we do mammogram for free for all the women.
Syria's government pays for the mammograms.
Our competition very big. We hope for 90% to go to do mammogram.
Mammograms are important to Al-Mahani. She credits a mammogram done in the U.S. for saving a friend from breast cancer, which prompted her first walk in San Diego, followed by the March for Survival in Syria. How is your friend doing?
كيف صديقتك اللي كانت؟ كثير منيحة, very good, and she is living in Syria in a good health.
Good health for everyone from San Diego to Syria is a goal Al-Mahani strives for, one step at a time.
This is for save the life of women. This is for detect the cancer at an early stage. This is for the health of all people and for families and for children.
Syrian health officials report breast cancer is the #1 cancer killer among women in that country. They believe it's because 70% of their patients are first diagnosed with cancer in its advanced stage. San Diegan Saul Price is known as the man who changed retail stores forever. Price, who died in 2009, was the founder of FedMart and Price Club. He'll be honored by the San Diego History Center tomorrow night. Pat Finn tells us why.
Saul Price and his family moved to San Diego from Brooklyn when he was 12. Eventually, he became a lawyer until the fateful day when his friend, Mandel Weiss, asked him to come to L.A. to look at a unique store.
The LA store was called Fedco, and for a $2 lifetime membership, federal employees could buy merchandise at discounted prices. Now, discounting manufacturers' suggested prices was practically unheard of in the 50s, but Saul Price thought it was a great idea.
In 1954, with just $50,000 in capital, he and Weiss started their own store. FedMart opened in an empty warehouse that Price owned in Barrio Logan. Optimistically, they thought they might do $1 million worth of business in the first year. They did 3 times that, and they did it by violating nearly all conventions of retail merchandising at once. They were open when other stores were closed. They didn't bother with fancy displays. They sold just 2 or 3 brands of one product. They sold food and merchandise in the same stores, and, most famously, they sold goods in large packages. FedMart might have been the first to sell a lifetime supply of mustard in one container. Many knew Saul Price as a pioneer and a unique retailer, but they also knew him as a unique human being.
He was very innovative, brilliant man, but also very unassuming. Saul was very direct with people, but very caring about his employees. Saul gave them all the benefits of the unions, health, vacation, everything that you could imagine that an employee would want or need, and never quibbled over it. It was his feeling that if an employee was working for him, working hard, that he should be compensated in every way possible. I think without exception, an employee that worked for Saul would say he was one of the fairest employers that they had ever met.
In 1962, 8 years after FedMart opened, Target, Walmart, and Kmart opened their first stores, selling large packages of consumer goods and food items at discount prices. In fact, Sam Walton said he stole, he preferred the word borrowed, many ideas from Saul Price. In 1975, Saul Price sold FedMart to German retailers, and a year later he started Price Club. While FedMart slowly died, Price Club grew to an international corporation of 100 stores with $8 billion in sales and 21,000 employees. 1993 marked the closing of a circle for Saul Price. His Price Club merged with Costco, which was started by Jim Sinegal, who began his career at FedMart and learned everything about retailing from Saul Price. Today, Costco has 582 stores worldwide, 11 of them in San Diego County. Each of its full-time and part-time employees receives medical, dental, and prescription benefits.
Saul Price believed that if you hire good people, treat them well, and pay them good wages, then great things will happen to your business. Those who knew him believed that that was Saul Price's real legacy.
That was Pat Finn reporting. Saul Price will be honored as History Maker of the Year by the San Diego History Center tomorrow night. And now here's Amitha Sharma with an update on what KPBS is working on for next week.
Thanks, Peggy. Tune in to KPBS's These Days Monday to hear about the troubles plaguing the fast-growing San Diego company, Bridgepoint Education.
Thanks, Amitha. You can comment on any of the stories you saw tonight by going to our website at kpbs.org/SDWeek. We'd love to hear from you. Now, here's a look at your weekend weather forecast. Thanks for watching, and good night.